Hey everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing Blink Twice. This was directed by Zoe Kravitz. Some say that Zoe Kravitz is Hollywood royalty. She is a famous actress and she is the daughter of Lisa Bonet and of course Lenny Kravitz. She grew up around the arts, she grew up around the most famous Hollywood elites her entire life, so it made sense that she would eventually find herself in the industry. I personally didn't know anything about her aspirations to direct, but when I first heard about this film, naturally, I was a bit skeptical because of, the whole nepotism thing. It appeared to me like one of those situations where it's like you have all the connections, all of the resources at your disposal, but maybe half the talent of like a real filmmaker. I have said this before, I'm not nearly as opposed to the whole nepotism thing in Hollywood like a lot of people are, so long as you have the talent to back up your connections. When you are related to somebody famous in that situation, then yeah, the expectations are naturally going to be raised. But if you can meet those expectations, then, I say go for it. I say make it known. Be like, yes, I am the daughter or son of, such and such. And yes, talent does run in the family, and I am carrying on that legacy. With Zoe Kravitz, she definitely has a vibe. She has kind of a minimalist bohemian sort of thing going on, and she has kind of a casual, a relaxed creativity to her, I should say. So it's like you can see there is like an artistic point of view. She has a perspective somewhere in her life, and literally that is the only thing I have to go by so far as how good she could be as a filmmaker. I try to go in with an open mind and just, see where it goes. The premise of Blink Twice is you have a waitress named Frida, and she's kind of having her Cinderella story moment. She meets this big, famous tech billionaire guy, and his name is Slater King, and it's played by Channing Tatum. When they meet, he seems weirdly swept off his feet by her for no apparent reason, and he ends up actually inviting her to go along with him on his private island with a group of friends, and it's supposed to be like this vacation getaway. Clearly a not so subtle nod to Epstein Island, and Channing Tatum tries to entice her by saying, oh, this is a great place, there's no cell phone service, all of the food is locally grown, we have chickens. And seriously, all I could think at this moment was, this reminds me of the AD episode where Lenny Kravitz takes you on a tour of his Brazilian farmland. It's on YouTube. It is all the same shit. He's literally like, we have no cell phone service so we can all talk to each other. All of the food is locally grown. He has like, local women working for them. He's like hugging them and kissing them. The vibes are weird. And yeah, I'm just wondering, is she basing this shit off home, or is this more kind of meant to be broad, more like a Infinity Pool, like that was directed by Brandon Cronenberg, who is, of course, the son of David Cronenberg. It's essentially the same film. You have an island getaway with a bunch of friends, and you get trapped in this nightmarish cycle of hedonism and violence, rinse, repeat. It seems to be the formula these days, and that's what this film feels like. It feels like a mishmash of all of these attempts at like art house satire thrillers. This feels like Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry, Darling, mixed with Emerald Fennell's Saltburn, mixed with, as I mentioned, Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. Every single one of those films that I just mentioned that this film is drawing from, they are all very messy films to me. It's like I can see certain things that I like in each one, but there's a lot of glaring mistakes. And yet, when I watched this film, those movies are like masterpieces comparatively. I hated this film, you guys. I fucking hated this film. And it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired of these same movies over and over and over and over again. I am tired of these rich celebrities who think just because maybe they have a bookish side, or maybe they like to watch a movie from the Criterion Channel every now and again, that they think they have the perspective and the ability to make art that is worthy of the cinematic experience. Having a mood board is a little bit different than making an actual film that has strong concepts and strong characters and strong emotions that go all the way through it. I think that Kravitz has proven that, yes, she has significantly less talent than somebody like Emerald Fennell or Olivia Wilde, but I think all three of them have one huge thing in common. They all remind me of that type of girl who maybe dreams her entire life about getting married, but just so she can have the perfect wedding, the aesthetic fantasy. It's about the dress, the venue, the flowers, the music, all of it, but it's not about, the actual concept of marriage, or about the actual guy that you're going to be spending maybe the rest of your life with. I don't mean that in a literal way, but just the concept, the idea of the wedding-obsessed girl. I feel like it is absolutely poisoning Hollywood these days. And that is my problem with Miss Kravitz, is that she thought nothing through. I don't even know where to begin with the script. It is just so bafflingly schematic and confusing and lazy. It feels like it was written often by like an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old with humor that doesn't land and a bunch of like cringy one-liner, girl boss one-liners that, yeah, they're just embarrassing. To call this movie half-baked is a massive understatement. Whatever has been cooked here, I swear the heart is still beating. We build scenes around images and colors and all of this artifice, trickery really, rather than the other way around. And basically, what's even worse is that a lot of the images that they're using here, it's so art house 101. Sure, at times some of the images can be really nice and like the colors could be nice. They can pack a bit of an emotional punch, but it's just in flashes. And again, when you are surrounded by, plentiful resources to this extent like she is, I feel like you can find the right type of people to help communicate that vision. She has all of the tools, it seems, but none of the ideas. And this is an ambitious story because you've got all of these visual symbols and like subliminal ideas that are like reminding us of like slavery, American slavery, or, repressed femininity. Class commentary obviously is a big one, but what emerges more than any of those, what bubbles to the surface, I think more is the feminist allegory. The editing in this film, it is so bad. Concerningly bad. I have no idea what's going on here. It felt like there was just clear miscommunication between editor and director. It felt like one of those situations where we are literally cutting the movie minutes up until the actual premiere. It is so sloppy, but it's sloppy where it's fascinating. I almost want to go back and watch the movie and kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb to just figure this whole thing out. But I just don't think it's worth it for me to do that. At least a movie like Don't Worry, Darling, which is obviously very similar to this movie, despite the mess that movie is, I don't think that movie's trash. I actually liked it more than a lot of people did at the time. I can see that there is a good movie in there somewhere. It's just that the instincts are off and the script needs some tightening and a rewrite. I think we needed a different director, but I think it was salvageable. And that's why I felt that film was worth returning to. Just for the mental exercise of how could I make this better? How could I make the tension more interesting? But again, this isn't even worth it. This just feels like somebody put a plate in front of you and it has like a bunch of garnishes, but the main course, it's like the steak, whatever, it's missing. The film tries to build these relationships with the ensemble of characters, and yet it fails so miserably because it only sees them as stereotypes. The film lingers on like these slow motion, like dance sequences, party sequences, and Kravitz. It's as if she thinks she's making the next Boogie Nights. And she's doing all of this without building any of the internal dynamics, the internal drama. We have no idea why our main character is so fixated on Channing Tatum's character and why he's fixated on her. And we don't understand them as people. It's like they insinuate certain things. She has this major desire to escape. And it's like, what is that about exactly? And I mean this less from a plot perspective, but from just a personality perspective. It's like we need personalities in these characters. And when the film needs to emphasize, an important piece of tension or important plot point, it just glosses over it. It feels just so spliced up. And then anytime we don't know what to do, we just create these long montages. So it's like, yeah, it's all so slippery through our fingers. This felt like the SparkNotes version of a longer film. But I will say that the main actress, Naomi Ackie, who plays the main character, I do think she has a pretty strong emotional presence. She puts a lot of emotion and effort into her role, and I really appreciate that considering, how little she's given here. Channing Tatum, of course, you need a star, you need a charismatic actor in that part, and I think with him, I get why, you'd want to cast somebody like him because, yeah, he's got a softness to him. He is charming, but you can see that melancholy, that distance in him that does make him very enigmatic. I could see us scratching the surface of a really intimidating, vicious type of character here, but it just feels like we're too afraid to go there. This character is so thinly sketched. And so it's like you can see a talented person here, and yet he's not given the opportunity to use those chops at all here. There is a moment towards the end of the film. It is, during the climax. So yes, obviously it's a spoiler, but whatever. Our character, Channing Tatum, he's kind of talking about what it means to be canceled as a man and what it means to say, I'm sorry. And the idea is, that you can say the words, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You could say them over and over and over again, and you can say it more impassioned, more convincingly each time. But does it really matter? When do those words start to matter? That's the interesting question, because in the performance, you get a sense that they do matter to a degree. I felt like they really blew the opportunity to explore those facades in an interesting way because, yeah, it's clear that Tatum is a wounded person, or like the character, I should say, is a wounded person. The film clearly wants to lean into the campy aspect. It has that kind of Lynchian quality of like the plastic smiles and the MGM Technicolor, and you know, all of that is creepy, or it can be. But again, Kravitz has no idea what to do with any of it. I feel like she can't find anything honest within this fantasy because she is too wrapped up in the fantasy itself. The cracks in the facade of this film are neglected. And it's like our main character. You should feel that thing growing at the pit of your stomach. It's like something is so off about this place. So in a scene where she's like, something weird is happening, don't you guys feel it? It's like Kravitz isn't really interested in her own turmoil. She's more interested in the image. She's more interested in, no, we have to get all of the actresses in face masks and they all have to turn their heads at the same time so it can be super haunting. But why? It's all just self-indulgent. All of it. And I think if there's one really, really great thing to come out of this movie, maybe the only great thing, it is the performance by Adria Arjona. This woman, oh man, she has it. She is the star out of this entire group of girls by far. Her magnetism, her sexiness, her effortlessness, you can feel sort of a wildness in her, but she's able to keep it calm and focused. She's got that juice. She's got those stirring emotions beneath the face where you just want to follow her. There are moments in this film where she is given some very bad dialogue, and it's meant to come off as she's saying it very seriously, but there needs to be a sense of humor to it. And she is so convincing in it. It is like she is the star of her own action movie. I wanted this movie to be about her. I thought she was easily, you know, one of the best things about Hitman as an example. I just think she's fantastic. I want to see more and more of her. But don't get me wrong, I hated this film. I hated this film. And it's not the kind of hate where it's like, I am so repulsed by this film, but it's more just like, I'm fascinated by how bad this is. Nearly every meaty aspect of this film falters before it can ever be formed, and that is just crazy to me. That something could be this lazy, but it's masquerading as this finished piece, as this art. The film lacks the cynicism and the darkness, and I think the real violence may be at the heart of it. I don't mean literally, but at the heart of it, to really convey something real. I think even if Kravitz does have some great natural ambition to become a filmmaker, I think she needs to understand her own capabilities before she takes on too much. Because I don't want to dismiss it if this is something she's been dreaming about since she was a little girl or something, but yeah, this came off as something someone made just because they can. And I don't think that's the type of feeling that she wanted to give off at all with this movie. Don't waste your time with this. Watch a film made by somebody who really has, yeah, that talent and that point of view. So that is my review. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commissioned portraits and I sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.